The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod. We're coming to you live from the Warner Center in Woodland Hills, California. It is Thursday, May, why do I never know the date? It's the 23rd, there we go. And we are in fact live. We're coming, as I said, from the Warner Center. This is the home for Autism Live. It is also the home for the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. If I sound discombobulated, it's because we had a plan here for this hour. Our one and only guest for the hour, we were going to have him join us for Jargon, was the fabulous Matt Asner, and we hope to be able to talk about the poker tournament that's coming up on June 1st. That is the Ed Asner Poker Tournament, which is amazing. And we were also going to talk about Camp Ed, plus a whole bunch of things, because, you know, Matt is one of my favorite people. He's an awesome dad. And we just received word that on the way here to the studio, Matt was in a car accident. We're being told that he's okay, that we hope that he's okay, but that he is going to be taken to a hospital to be checked out. And you can imagine it just took away all of our breath. It's just another one of those moments in life when you realize that, boy, you know, you're going someplace, you're doing something, and then something happens that just rearranges the plan, right? So first and foremost, we want to send our thoughts and our prayers to Matt and his family that he's okay and that everything is okay. I don't have any other details about the accident, but you know what I've told you, and so if I find out more information, I will let you guys know, but we are being told that he's okay, but you know, has to be checked out at the hospital. So man, takes your breath away, right? But we're thinking of him and thinking of his family and hoping that everything is okay. We soldier on with the show, and like I said, if we have the opportunity, we'll give you an update on Matt's situation a little bit later on. But please, everyone, be so careful out there driving. I know here in Los Angeles, we've gotten more rain than I think any other year in the history of Los Angeles in this spring. And, you know, I don't think that the roads, first of all, are slicker. And I don't think that the general person in Los Angeles has a lot of experience driving in rain except for the last few months. So that can make for a very dangerous situation. It's why we all have to be careful all of the time, right? Because you never know what's going to happen. In any case, let me remind you that we are going to be live for the next hour talking about autism from a 360-degree perspective. We hope to give you information and inspiration. We are still going to talk a little bit about the poker tournament, and we are still going to talk a little bit about Camp Ed, and we are going to reschedule with Matt so that he can talk about those things with you as well. But we have a lot of other things because, you know, autism does not take a vacation, right? So a lot of other things to talk about as well. And we hope that you will participate with us. You can be writing in your thoughts, your feelings, your questions, your concerns by any of the ways that Traven is showing you there. And I like to remind you that our homepage is autism-live.com. And when you go there, it's a new website. So it takes a little, you know, you got to play with it a little bit to see how it navigates, but there's lots of different ways that you can find information. Please write in if you're not finding the way that would be good for you. One of the directives that we had from our viewers is, you know, just the autism community is very unique, right? There is no one size fits all. And so for viewership for an autism program, there's no one size fits all. It's why we try to offer in lots of different formats and lots of different ways. And I hope that you're going to see as we move forward that we're looking to provide transcription for more of our shows and translate some of our shows. So we want to make sure that people who have other issues with abilities, whether there are sight issues or hearing issues, still have the access to be able to get the information. And we want for people with different languages to be able to get the information. And we know, I mean, I'm a visual person, so I like to look at pictures of things. Other people are text people. Other people want to see the whole breadth of, you know, I want to see all of your Temple Grandin videos so that I can pick amongst them. Other people want to search by text of question. We've tried to make that all possible for you on the new website, so take a look and check it out. You can still chat with us from that website. There is a chat button at the very bottom of the page. If you click that, it opens up a box, and then you can be talking with me in almost real time. There is a little bit of a delay to it. The other thing that I want to make sure that you know is that on the new website, when you go there, within the first 7 seconds that you're there, every time you visit, there will be a pop-up that will ask you if you would like to subscribe to the Autism Live newsletter. What that is a postcard that goes out weekly that allows you to know who is scheduled to be on the show. And I say scheduled because stuff happens, right? That's what our plan is for the week, and then, you know, we make other choices as need be. Now, if you do sign up for the newsletter, then the pop-up should stop. If it doesn't, please let me know. If you choose not to sign up for the newsletter because you know, and please know that we don't sell your information to anybody else. You only get the newsletter from us, comes once a week. And it's pretty informative. But if you don't want that, which I completely understand, it does mean that you just have to click the X. It will go away. It will come back the next time, and just, you know, it's one of those things. You click it, it goes away. Makes sense? You know that I always like to say that we hold hands here and say, boy, we can do this together. Yes, we can. Okay. We like to start every Thursday morning with something we fondly refer to as the jargon of the day. This is when we take on one word, one phrase, one acronym. We try to figure out what exactly are they talking about so that we can save time and money. So today's term, it's not an autism term. It's not an ABA term. It's not a psychology term. It's just one of those terms that we need to know when we are in the autism community. And by autism community, by the way, I mean parents, teachers, practitioners, and individuals who are on the autism spectrum. So today's term, it sends a shiver down my spine now. In-app purchase. Okay. You might be like, well, Shannon, we all know what an in-app purchase is. Well, let's talk about that. So let's look at our actual definition here. So an in-app purchase is, it refers to buying of goods and services from inside an application on a mobile device, such as a smartphone or a tablet, right? We all kind of know that. But what's our working definition for those of us in the autism community? Go ahead and show it, Traven. It's a sneaky way for a free app for them to make money. Okay, so you know, and I can't give you a one size fits all because Androids and Apple different, right? And each tablet is different, each phone is different. But when you buy an app from whoever, when you get an app, when you download an app, because most of the time now they're free, right? Free, right? The commercial, right? So you download the app, whether it's a game or it's something to help you. You download the app and it's now on your device, right? And it will tell you when you download it, in-app purchases in very small letters underneath the thing where it says, you know, get the thing. Okay, so you get the app and everything is wonderful. And let's say it's a game and you're playing the game and there are tokens that you win when you play the game. Or dollars that you win when you play the game. And then there comes a point in the game where you don't have enough tokens to be able to purchase something, or you don't have enough dollars to be able to purchase something, and the game gives you the option of buying them. Now, it's a little bit better because there's been some regulation on this, and the different providers of apps have said we don't want this to be as fishy as it was. But I'm telling you that a reasonable adult now should be aware, if they know that there are in-app purchases, of what you have to pay for and what you don't have to pay for. But here's the big asterisk. When you have a child playing an app, and I don't care, child on the spectrum, child not on the spectrum, it's a much dicier thing to be able to discern. Perfect example, a few years ago, it was a big long day that we had planned. We were being interviewed for a news thing. And it actually was the first day that I'd met Nancy Alspaugh Jackson before, but I had not met her husband, Reed, and I had not met her son, Wyatt. And so there were 3 families that were being interviewed for this news piece. It was a thing where Dr. Granpeesheh was being recognized as an American hero, which, man, I was like, sign me up. I want to be there with my kiddo. So they were interviewing us. We were at a park, and there was lots of downtime because they would be over talking to one of the other families, and we were just, hanging out. And they had chairs for us. We were sitting in the shade. There was water. But, and my son went and played for a while, but then he wanted to sit in the shade. And what's the most reinforcing thing for our kids? He wanted to be on his dad's phone. So, because he didn't have his own phone at this point, right? But we hand our phone to our kids and let them play. So he's playing on dad's phone, and it's this city that he's building in some app. And he says, Mom, I just got the zoo. And I said, you did, honey, that's awesome. And he says, look at my zoo. My zoo is fabulous. And I was like, that is wonderful. And he's playing, and I'm watching him play, and everything is great. And then, he gets something else, and he goes, look, I got this. I got like a bird aviary. And I'm like, oh, honey, that is just fabulous. And we left there, and it was a big day. Like, it's a big day in our memory for so many different reasons. We went that night to see a production of Peter Pan that was directed by my friend Glenn Cassell with Kathy Rigby in it, which was so exciting. They had redone this production that they had done years before that I'd always wanted to take my kid to. My kid saw this production. It was so wonderful. He got to go backstage. He got to meet Kathy Rigby. We took pictures. It was amazing. We're exhausted. We go home. And the next morning is like the most exciting thing in my life because I wake up to hearing my son singing because he saw Peter Pan. My son used to sing, and then he stopped singing with autism, and my son is singing because he saw Peter Pan, and I'm going to cry, right? He saw Kathy Rigby on stage. And it was just amazing. So I'm having like this moment, and my husband is downstairs, and I hear him scream. And I've never heard my husband scream before or since, but my husband screamed. And I said, what's wrong? And he said, oh my God, something horrible is happening. But I had 2 things taken out of my bank account, each for $300 yesterday. It's like from and he's like listing this thing, and he goes, do you like somebody's raiding my account? Oh my, and while we were watching another $300 thing came out of his account, and he was like, what's happening right here? And then we started researching. It was like, oh, well, there was a zoo and a bird aviary. My son paid $300 real dollars for that zoo, and $300 real dollars for the bird aviary, and $300 real dollars for something else. And that was a total of $900. And now I'm screaming and holding my chest, right? And we immediately shut everything down so that no more money could be taken out. But then we went through a process where we had to appeal and go back through we complained to the people who were, at the time we were on an Android phone. Let me be clear about that. So we complained to them and said, you allowed this app, and it's very, like, even as an adult, I could not see watching him that he was spending real money. We put protections on our phones so that nothing could be bought without putting the password in. We turned off the ability to be able to purchase things in-app on our devices. We did all of that. And we had to petition. You had to find the company first, which was really difficult. And then I had to petition them and say, this happened with our child, and we want our refund. And I got a lecture from them about, we will allow this once, but it will not happen again. So if your child spends more money. Now, and they told me that I was a bad parent for allowing my son to hold the device, and right? Horrible. But it took us months to get the $900 back. And I don't know about you, but I don't have $900 in an account that isn't already earmarked to be spent on something. You know what I'm saying? So we were huffing and puffing and like, oh my gosh, and it took us forever to get the money back. Now, and I was telling friends, I was like, everybody needs to know this, right? The very next morning, a friend who the day before had said, oh, we have Apple products. So do we have Matt here? Oh, we have my husband here. I thought for a second I saw somebody there, and anyways, we have my husband here. So, I was thinking we had Matt. We still don't have information about Matt, so hang on to that. But in any case, a friend had said to me, "Oh, well, that's why we have Apple products, so that these things won't happen." And I'm not kidding you. The very next morning, her husband was sitting playing on an iPad with her son, who is neurotypical, and was playing a game with Smurfs. And he said, I have all these apples. I need a wagon for the apple. And his dad was like, oh, well, do you have enough of whatever to? And he was like, yeah, I'm buying the wagon right there. It was a $900 wagon. And the dad's phone dings and it shows $900 deleted for, so it can happen to anybody. And I'm encouraging you to all be super careful and make sure that you Google whatever kind of device you have and find out how to turn off in-app purchases and how to make it so it's password protected, that no one can purchase something on your account without the password to your whatever device that you use. So in-app purchases there are lovely things that sometimes we want to purchase, but make sure you know what you're getting. And as my friend said, $900 for an imaginary wagon, I could go to Walmart and buy so many real wagons. It's deliberate to try to trick you. So be careful with that. That's in-app purchases. Okay, moving on. We always have a question of the day for you. And we want to know your stories so that people see it's not just me and the people that I know. Our question is that what have you ever purchased something ridiculous by accident on an app? I love, it's hilarious to me now that we have the money back. I'm like, well, we own a $300 zoo and my friend owns a $900 wagon. But we'd love to hear from you guys. What's the most ridiculous thing that you've purchased by accident in an app? So that we can all learn from it and turn things around. So write in on Facebook or whatever and let us know. Now, we always have a topic of the week. And as you know, as we're closing out this week, our topic this week was autism and technology. And we're going to spend a little bit of time on that probably today. I want to go to break while we figure out, we have lots of things planned for the show, but we're rearranging as we keep good thoughts for Matt and hope that he's okay. So stick with us. We're going to be right back after these messages.
Hey, I'm Candace Cameron Bray.
Tom Bergeron.
You're watching Autism Live.
And you're watching Autism Live.
And you're watching Autism Live.
You're watching Autism Live.
Do you provide care services to someone with autism? Recently, more and more children are being diagnosed with the condition and getting the support they need as awareness grows. But what happens to these children as they grow up? It's estimated that over 500,000 youth with autism will turn 18 in the next decade, and they'll be faced with a very difficult reality. As children with autism grow up, their services start to disappear or become very difficult to access. Things like medical care, mental health counseling, vocational training, and more. All services that are still desperately needed. The loss of support that youth with autism face as they grow up is so severe that it's referred to in the autism community as falling off a cliff. Adults with autism need the same level of support they had as children to avoid falling off the services cliff. Introducing Skills Living, the web-based software designed specifically to help transitioning youth and adults with autism so they can avoid the cliff and instead fly to success. With Skills Living, help your learner with autism develop the skills they need in all the critical areas of adult life, including self-control, planning, and problem-solving, effective communication, performing life skill tasks for independent living, acquiring and maintaining employment or other meaningful activities, developing and maintaining social skills and relationships, accessing transportation and public services, and being safe. Skills Living includes a comprehensive assessment, a data collection mobile app, behavior intervention plan builder, and automatic progress reporting. It also provides a complete curriculum addressing 16 key areas, spanning the entire range of functioning adulthood. Skills Living is easy to use and can be implemented by schools, parents, and autism service providers. Call or click today for your free demo and see how Skills Living can help your learner with autism avoid the cliff and instead reach their fullest potential. Skills Living. Wish, learn, become.
Can you have a life with autism? Absolutely not. Give it up right now. No, that's not true. I'm here to tell you, you can have a life with autism. I have a life with autism, and it's a good one. When you start on this journey, you don't know what's going to happen. You really have no idea. You're kind of in shell shock for the first couple years. It could be as long as 5 years until you realize, I do matter to people. When my son was first diagnosed, I remember thinking I would go anywhere and do anything for him. I didn't even think about it. I just came way at the bottom of the list. However, after a few years passed, I realized if I'm not important anymore, then that means no one's going to be here for him. So how do you have this life with autism? It's not easy. It's never going to be easy, but it can be done. It's really all about support. And support is a word you're going to hear a lot when you deal with the autism power structure. And that means schools, government agencies, social service agencies that can help you. There are things out there that you don't even know exist. So once you start connecting with other parents, you're going to kind of find this treasure chest full of things that only they can help you unlock. But once you get that support, it could be a babysitter coming to your home. It could be a therapist to take your child out and get him into the community. You can either leave the house, do your shopping, go to a farmer's market, do whatever you want to do. And it doesn't matter if it's really only about 5% of your time. As long as it's dedicated to you, that's going to help. It's all about your willingness to find support and your willingness to accept change and your willingness to kind of stick up for yourself, because you're battling for your child and you have to realize you guys are connected. There's a bond between you and your child that can never be broken. And if you're doing well, then your child's going to do well. So finding what you need to be happy, whole, and healthy as a person is a way that you can have a life with autism. And that's important too, because if you have a life with autism, you can also give your child a life too.
To watch. I don't think there are any tickets left to actually play, but I got to be honest with you. At this point, I think it's better to watch. We want to encourage you, if you are in the LA area, if you want to be around stars, people come all the time and say, Shannon, how do I get to be around stars? This is the thing to go to. You will get to be with stars as they're playing poker. It's, I think, the funnest night of autism, and it's happening on June 1st. And Matt was scheduled to be here with us to talk about it, and on the way here, we understand that he's been in a car accident. We have been told that we think that he's okay, but that he's a little bit banged up and that they've taken him to the hospital to check him out, which is exactly what we want. We're waiting for more information, and when we have that, we'll give it to you. But my husband happened to be here this morning, and he had already left, and I texted him, and I said, hey, do you want to come and be on the show? And so he came. This is not what I don't think he would have worn if he had known.
That's right.
Maybe,
actually.
maybe, I don't know, maybe. But this is my husband, and you've only been on a couple of times.
I think, yeah, is it once or twice? I don't
Once
know.
or twice. And
Yeah.
so this is the fabulous Shannon husband.
I'm not as fabulous as Matt Asner, though.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that. Matt's pretty fabulous, but you are too, honey.
Okay.
And so, anyway, so this is my husband, Jim Miller, and awesome autism dad. And he, on the spur of the moment, put him on the spot here. And one of the things that there are many things that we could talk about, but one of the things that I had an opportunity to talk with a parent about just earlier this week is that when you have a child, you have this dream of being able to share certain things that are important to you with them. And that when the child is diagnosed with autism, a lot of us go through a process where we feel like, oh, I'm not going to get that, especially when our children are little. And that's like a big trigger for grief. And I was sharing with them a very personal moment. Do you feel like sharing that when Jem was diagnosed, that was one thing. And I think a lot of times the dads are a little bit later to come to things than the moms. Not always, but that was certainly our case. And we were starting ABA therapy, but we had to go to my niece's wedding. And we got to the airport to go, and the flight was canceled. Because there was something wrong with the airplane and they weren't putting us on other airplanes. We spent like 6 hours at the airport with a 3-year-old with autism who was, for all intents and purposes, nonverbal at this point. And finally we got on a plane to Denver. We got to Denver hoping to get a connecting flight to Iowa where the wedding was. It was the beginning of 4th of July weekend. You can imagine how horrible it was. And they told us there was no flight until the 7th of July. Well, now we're stuck in Denver, and we went to get a hotel room and rent a car so that the next day we could drive. We had tried to get there a day early so that we could be there for the dinner and everything. So we still had one day left before the wedding, so we were going to drive, but we were exhausted by that point.
Well, that car seat, I remember the car seat.
Oh my gosh. Because we had one of those big Britex car seats that we took with us. And to be on the plane and to be in cars. And so we had suitcases and that's the car seat. And we were dragging the car seat with us everywhere that we were going. Why didn't we just get a cart, honey? Like, we should have got a cart to put all the suitcases.
Well, 14 years later, that's good thinking.
I know, but we didn't. And we were, how you get past it, we were laughing and crying, and it was just horrible. I mean, it was just horrible things that happened that day.
Now it's a funny anecdote.
Yeah, now, after the fact, we laugh about it because we know the end of the story and that it was okay, but we all day, like I had one little carry-on that had some food for our child that was gluten-free and dairy-free, and I had like 4 changes of clothes, and he was still in diapers at that point, and I had like 6 diapers with me because I thought we were going to be in Iowa 3 hours later. But now we've been in 2 airports, and it's midnight, and the child has had horrible diarrhea all day long. Like the kind of diarrhea that it goes out the diaper and all over me and all over everything else. And I've gone through all the clothes that he has.
Right.
And now we're at the TGI Friday and I take him in the bathroom and I basically am giving my child a shower in the bathroom. They had to give me a towel from the kitchen to wrap him up in, and I smell like horribleness. I come back to the table and sit down at the table, and that is the very moment where you had the realization of what we were facing.
Oh, okay.
You don't remember?
Well, no, I don't remember. You have the greatest memory ever.
Well, I came back to the table, and that, the whole time from the diagnosis, you were like, everything's going to be okay, everything's going to be okay. But I sat down at the table smelling like poo with a child wrapped in a dish towel, and that's when you cried.
And I probably had that time to think while you were
in the bathroom.
Yeah.
And it was pretty horrible. And so I came back and you were crying, and I was like, what are you crying? Like I was like, are you crying because we didn't get on the plane? Are you crying I didn't know what to do because you don't cry a lot. And
I cry a whole lot. Have we been to a movie together?
No, but you know what I mean? That's different. That's different. And I love the fact that you're in tune with your emotions. And it's not like you're like a guy and I'm never going to cry. But but you don't like it's not like it's a Tuesday and the mail comes and it's the wrong thing and you burst into tears. You're
Right,
not,
right.
You're not like that. I think that you were very in tune with your feelings, but you had not cried in front of me about the autism.
Right.
And so there you were crying, and I said, "What's wrong?" And you said, "I just realized you had just been to see a production of To Kill a Mockingbird, like the week before." And you said, "I just realized there was a little boy who was playing the character Jem in the play." And you said, "I just realized he may never be able to be in a play. And I may never be able to share that joy of what that means with him." Do you not recall this?
Yeah, no, I do. And I remember, we were just talking about, you were talking about the holidays.
Oh, yeah.
And that that he might just never
That was my fear.
appreciate
he
holidays.
He just didn't understand it, and especially Christmas.
Yeah.
Like I always make it a big thing about the ornaments, and well, this is the ornament that belonged to Grandma Hoppy, and this is the ornament from the first tree that after I was born in Puerto Rico, and I was like, he's never gonna get that at all. But anyway, I interrupted you.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, we just wasn't sure what he was going to get. You
don't know.
Yeah, you don't know.
But so you do remember that day, and maybe you can share a little bit more about how you were feeling in that moment.
Well, I mean, I remember when we got the diagnosis, it was just, oh boy, I better find out what autism is.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
it was one of those kind of things. So, just hit the books, and
we're still figuring that out.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't know that I still have a really good handle because it's different.
Well, that's the thing. This whole spectrum,
Yeah.
is everybody's, just completely different.
And even within our kid, I feel like it changes.
Yeah.
Almost on a daily basis, but fairly frequently it changes what my perception of autism is. But now we're a good solid, 12, 13 years later.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I want for you to share a little bit about how that ended up for you. Do you still feel that way? Like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to be able to share these things with him, or never have him understand?
Talk about tearing up. Pretty much whenever I come here at Card, I get that feeling, but it's all good.
Yeah.
Because
I cry on a daily basis.
You're gonna say I never cry, and I'm gonna
I have tissues.
2 minutes later. Oh God. But seriously, I mean, it's a different building, but just coming here is just it means so much.
Yeah.
Just this see from point A to point Z. I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah.
What has been our son's progress, and I love running into people who are therapists, and they just love everybody here.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
and the feeling
amazing.
of gratitude,
Yeah.
like it can't be defined. Like I can't.
Right.
I talk all the time. You don't get a chance to, but I talk all the time to therapists and thank them. And they think, oh, well, it's probably just this sort of pat thing. It's emotional for me every single time. And there is no bounds to it. And I always say I'm attempting to put into words, but there are no words.
Right.
There are no words. But for people who are watching who have kids that are little and they're just getting started, or they're having that day today of, I'm not sure if I'm ever going to be able to share the thing that's most important to me with my child. I think we're a perfect example that while I don't think that Jem is gazonga over the holidays as I am, he gets into it.
Right.
He's excited, and we hang the ornaments on the tree, and the ones that are meaningful, that have stories, like he at least laughs and is tolerant with me about hearing the story for the 38th time
Right.
about the ornament, and he knows what they mean, and he is very loving and gentle with them, and knows that he will inherit them, and like has all the meaning that any teenage boy would have
Right.
ever about them, right? And in terms of being able to share the joy of acting and theater and plays with him, how you doing?
Yeah.
How's that going for you?
Oh my God. Yeah. Well, that's a little. I think that's more than part of the reason I did a production of To Kill a Mockingbird fairly recently, and we had a great kid too who played a great young man who played Jem, the character, and yeah, I kind of realized he really hadn't seen me on stage
Yeah.
because we're so busy. It's been such a long time, and so I wanted to do that for him and me, and
Yeah.
both of us.
And we've seen him now in plays.
And yeah, we've seen and
he absolutely he enjoys
And
being
he's
on
writing.
stage way too much. Like way too much. But do
he writes all the time.
Yeah.
And he's
But do you
super
feel
creative.
like you have had that fulfilled for you as a dad, that you do get to share that with him now?
I really do. I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Where it was such a mystery when he was younger. Now it's just clearer and clearer
Yeah.
every day that we both, we love seeing movies together. We'll talk about just, what didn't work for you in that, and he says, I didn't find this character believable or something.
Yeah.
He'll just
He has good notes.
dissect
about
it.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah, he really does. And it's funny because I was thinking about this the other day about how when he was little, I think it's important that families understand that the mom and the dad, and even if it's like partners that are same sex, there's different relationships. Everybody has a
Right.
different relationship with the child. And so when I got very much into the mode of, okay, so we're going to do this therapy, and we got to get in this line, and we got to do this, and we're doing this, and I became like, this, make the schedule, the drill sergeant, and I'm going to be honest here and say that it wasn't that I never played with him, but I was more concerned with the schedule, and playing with him it was hard for me.
Mm-hmm.
It was hard for me to figure out how to play with my own kid. It's why the toy segment is so important to me.
Yeah.
It's why talking about play is so important, because it didn't come super easy to me. Whereas for you, and this is my experience of it, you might have a different experience. I feel like you were like, great, Shannon, you've got the schedule. I'll show up at the place you tell me to be when you tell me to be, and I'm going to let you take that. But you got down on the floor with him and you played with him. You were like two puppies that you would play. Do you remember there was this whole routine that you used to do, and I hope we have it somewhere on videotape, but Jim would sit on the floor with a newspaper.
Oh.
Do you remember this?
Of course I do.
And you would sit crisscross applesauce on the floor with a newspaper, and you would be like, he's such an actor.
Ooh, what's in the news today?
Yes. And
Really important that I look at this now.
right. And he would make a big show of it, and then that was Jem's signal that he would run from across the room and crash through the paper to sit on his dad's lap. and Jim would do this whole, what's happening? And the paper would crinkle.
Very good impression.
Right? And the paper would crinkle, and they would laugh. And then Jem would get up and go across the room, and Jim it was like reset the button, and Jim would pick up the paper again. He'd be like, "Ooh, I think I'll read what's in the news
and
today."
he'd be like starting.
Yes. Yes. And then he would come running over, and they would do this for like an hour at a time. And I eventually would be the old school mom that would be like, all right, that's enough of that. That's a lot of noise, and you're teaching him to crash into things. That's not what we're teaching him, and crab. But you guys had that relationship,
Right.
and you still have that relationship. I try to find other ways to like have super fun with my kid, and I did games and toys and whatever. But we have very different relationships with
Right.
him, very different relationships. And I loved years ago, there was a dad that I met who said, he had an older child, and he said, boy, the day that my wife and I realized that we were not going to have the same relationship, and we just sort of said, oh, and that's how it should be, that really rang for me. And I love that we have these different relationships. So if you're watching and going, well, my wife doesn't do it this way, or my husband doesn't do it this way, I think it's important to learn the ABA techniques, but to allow yourselves to have different relationships.
Well, yeah, I think it's important. I think there's filling in gaps. There's like something that like, oh, this is what he does very well. This is what she does very well, and then you have it all together.
Yeah.
And you got the well-rounded,
Yeah, but I always
parenting.
thought, because I'm the aunt that's the most fun.
Right.
I'm the aunt that shows up and brings the can of whipped cream and calls a child over and squirts whipped cream in their hand and says, what are you going to do now? I guess you're going to have to eat it. Like, I'm the wild and crazy aunt. Like, that's one of my favorite things to do with little kids when I'm the aunt. But suddenly, with my own child, I wasn't going to do that with my own child because A, he wasn't eating whipped cream, and B, that makes a mess. And you know what I mean? It's different when it's your kid.
It is, yeah.
So I became the mom who, comforted and whatever, but I was the rule keeper, which was a very not me kind of role. Do you know?
Yeah.
I was always jealous of the fact that you were the fun dad and I was the rule mom. But I took that role on. It's not like you assigned me that role. I'm the one who was like, we have to do this, that, and the other thing. So it's just a very interesting. Now, years ago, Jem, I would always try to be funny with him, and he had none of it. Just had none of it. And then we were on a plane. It was right after my mom had died, and it was just a hard time, right?
Yeah.
And he was a little bit nervous on the plane because we still hadn't flown that much at that point. Now he calms me down on the plane. But I was trying to crack jokes to him to distract him so that he would be okay on the plane. And he was just getting more and more frustrated with me. And finally he said, will you stop? And he said, you try to be funny, but you're just not. And I was like, what are you talking about? I'm one of the funniest people you know. And he was like, no, you're not. You try to be funny and you're not. And then it was like war, right? Because I was going to prove to him that I was funny. But last year, both of us, we sort of had a moment where we both realized that we would take our son to theater all the time to see our friends perform, but he had not seen either one of us perform. And so we both decided to take on projects so that he could see us in that light, because he's old enough now. And one of the biggest thrills of my life was that he came to see my one-woman show, the Autism Monologues. And afterwards, we had somebody in the back seat with him as we were driving away. And he said to that person, he was like, isn't my mom funny? And I was like, yes, we have arrived. But he has always thought that you were hilarious. That you were, and you are. I mean, there's no doubting that. But he, always thinks that you're.
But I don't have the plaque that you have. Did
Yeah,
you?
no, I have a plaque that says I'm the funniest person in Iowa.
That's right. It's official.
And it's in the shape of the state of Iowa. Not many people have that, but I have one. But you're the funniest person in both of our lives. But it's a wonderful thing for me to see how much he enjoys you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And go ahead.
Well, yeah, but he just loves like coming up to you and sitting in your lap.
What does he love about me?
Sitting in your lap or whatever. I mean,
he is way too big to sit in my lap. But I started a thing about a month ago where I was like, I need you to sit in my lap for just a second, and that's about all I can do, because it feels like I'm being sawed in half. So that's been the new joke in the last month, because he just is so big now, and we're just 2 years away from him flying the coop.
But it isn't just. Even just like a little thanks, Mom.
Yeah.
Doesn't that just mean everything?
It
when
does.
You know.
It does. He's a teenager, so those are few and far between.
He's a classic teenager. Yeah.
but those are coming more and more. But I've always said, well, see, now I'm just going to cry all over the place. That I always say to people that the two greatest gifts in my life I've gotten from you, the two greatest gifts, that you are the person who made me a mom and made me Jem's mom. Greatest gift I've ever been given. But the other thing is that you, on a daily basis, love me for who I am, not in spite of who I am. And that's an amazing gift.
Oh, yeah.
And I think the greatest gift, and I tell this to Jem all the time, that we have given to him is that we gave him a mom and dad who love each other.
Right.
That does not mean that we are perfect.
Right.
That does not mean that every day is perfect or that we don't have our issues, because I don't want to put that out there.
Yeah.
But he has a mom and dad that love him, and that isn't something you can give by yourself. I know that there are a lot of you out there who wish that you could give that to your kiddo, but you have somebody who chose not to participate or chose to leave, and that is not your fault. I say all the time that I'm ridiculously lucky, and that my luck starts and ends that I married this man. So I'm glad I got to say that.
Right back at you, sweetheart.
Well, and I always say to him, you know, I said when we got married, before we even got pregnant, I said, you know, stick with me because it'll be an adventure ride, if nothing else, right? It's never a dull moment, and it hasn't been a dull moment.
Right.
But there have been many times in our marriage, and this summer, is it 17 years this summer?
Might be.
I think it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not a fluke anymore.
Right.
Like, we've been married a long time now, officially. And there are times when stuff has happened, and not just Jem being diagnosed. I mean, that's like one of the many things in our story, but as I've said before on the show, I thought that meant that nothing else could go wrong for us, but no. No, not at all. And there are times when you say, stuff starts to go wrong, and you say, oh, well, this is a poop storm, but you don't use the word poop.
Right.
We're in the middle of a storm.
Yeah.
And, but you know what? There are two times when I love you absolutely the best. One is when we have things like that, because you just deal so well with that, and you take everything in stride and say, well, it's a poop storm, what can we do? You're amazing at that. And you don't flip out and you don't leave. And the other time that I always say that I love you best, excuse me, is at Disneyland. Because, and now I'm going to expand it to when we get some time, because we just went on a vacation for the first time in forever.
Right.
It was partial vacation. We went to Boston. But because a lot of our time as autism parents over the years has been spent in constant motion without downtime. So the only downtime we had was to go to Disneyland. And you're a fun date. You're a fun guy, and we laughed.
We had a great
together.
time. We had a great time together. Yeah.
Well, we certainly had a fun time in Boston.
Yeah.
What was your favorite thing in Boston?
Oh wow.
Putting you on the spot.
I love going just to all the crazy shops. That was fun. The duck tour was great.
Yeah, I was not having a good time on the duck tour.
Oh no.
Because there was all the drama happening with the people that I was forced to sit with. I enjoyed the trip. The duck tour was great, but
Right.
I was stuck in a situation that was not the most fun. You and Jem were sitting together, and I had to sit with other people who were like not having a good time and were making sure that I was included in their not good
shoot.
time. Well, you know, life went on. I survived, and I still got to see the scenery. It just wasn't as, you know, when you're
Right.
trapped in other people's drama.
And I loved watching. Jem is such an appreciation. You know, he appreciates theater so much, and which I love. And so we saw the Blue Man Group.
Yeah. That was my favorite thing, was watching you and him at Blue Man Group.
Yeah, because you just
And-
have to be a kid. You just can't
Yeah,
go there
but you
and
know-
say, "This better be funny. This entertain me."
But not everybody goes into it that, you know, it'd been a really long day and it'd been a long week, and, you know, we went in to Blue Man Group, and had you ever seen Blue Man Group? I mean, obviously you've
No.
seen clips, but you never, so
Hardly any clips. Yeah, I didn't know.
And the first thing that they did was they handed out rolls of toilet tissue for you to tie around your head as like, bandanas. And there's a whole lot of people who could go to that who wouldn't be into it, and you were like,
I'm not tying.
you were.
I just came from the hair
was
salon.
like, give me the toilet paper, and we were taking pictures. My favorite picture now, there's a picture of you sort of lit up purple. I wanted it blue, but it's sort of you lit up purple with your bandana on going,
Yeah.
You're always fun. You're the life of the party. And then watching both of you, but especially Jem, just loved
Yeah.
Blue Man Group.
Yeah.
Like I thought he was going to lose his mind. He was having such a good time.
Right.
And, my favorite thing about people is that people get passionate about something.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to be passionate about everything, but like when I'm looking for who I think would be a good therapist, my first question is, what are you passionate about? Because if somebody's passionate about music, then that can be translated into passion for helping a kid to learn. It absolutely can. And, and the teenage years are the years where they are not, it's like they sign a contract with their friends. I will not be passionate about anything. I will appear to be apathetic about everything. So it's just extra awesome when they get really passionate about something. And I knew that he would get passionate about Blue Man Group, and he certainly did. So, that was my
That is a
favorite
clear
time.
winner.
Right?
Yeah.
But I also, it's funny, we went and saw a lot of really wonderful things, but somebody said, what's your favorite thing on a vacation? And I said, it's watching the people I love process new information and learning more about them. That honestly, like Blue Man Group, far and away the best thing that happened there, but I would say the second thing was just riding on all the different forms of transportation with you guys, that we took everything. We took a plane, a boat, a thing that was half bus, half boat. We took subways, we took Ubers, but the commuter train was super awesome fun, hanging out on the train. Like, I sort of wish we lived in a place where we could all take the commuter train every day. That was so much fun.
Yeah.
It was...
Yeah.
And that happens to be the same train. When I was a child, we lived in the suburbs of Boston for a year. And so the first time I went to see Santa Claus, I went on that commuter train. So it was a full circle moment for me. I was like, I remember being on that train with my mom, all dressed up in my tweed coat to go meet Santa Claus. And to be on that same train with you and our kid was just like such a wonderful thing. I did not expect that would fulfill me in the ways that it did. Anyway, I'm checking time here. I was going to take a break so that I could look and see what's on Facebook, but we don't really have time to take a break. But I do want to see if, hang on a second, because I want to see if people have questions. Traven says he emailed me questions. Hang on, you guys. Live show. There's nothing we can do about it. Okay, so we're saying hi and good afternoon to all the people on Facebook. Somebody says, I ran across your channel while looking up potty training for my 4-year-old son who has ASD. And they say that they're encouraged to know that they are not alone. And I just want to point out that I think that's the hardest part about this, is feeling like you are alone.
Right.
And yet we all feel that way, and there's so many of us. It's like this big irony, right?
Yeah.
I always say that I felt like I was alone on Mars, and that I wasn't.
Right, alone in like an unfamiliar territory,
absolutely.
Sure.
Okay, so somebody said they had a Kindle trial. I didn't know the trial would end and they would start dinging me, but Amazon gave me my money back. I think that's just about Kindle. Because I asked the question of the day was, what's the most ridiculous thing you've ever bought in
that's
that?
right.
I was like, wait a second, why are you writing us about Kindle? That's why, hello, answering the question, because the next person says, I can't recall, but it was probably in a Gamer Music downloaded by my daughter, because I was telling the story today of when he bought
I was hearing
the Zoo.
that. I love that.
and you screaming from
I
downstairs.
remember that like it was yesterday.
And thank you. Somebody says they finally caught us live. Wonderful. Can I give you guys a hint that with the new schedule, here's how it works, is that on Wednesdays and Thursdays, we are still live, except when there's always with an asterisk, right? Our intention is to be live on Wednesdays and Thursdays. We pre-tape Friday and we pre-tape Monday, usually, but not always. And then Tuesdays tend to be either a best of or a catch-up show. So, depending on this Tuesday, our plan is to have a best of show. But if Matt is okay, we will want to get Matt on the show before Saturday, which is when the tournament is. So it could be that we will have Matt on Tuesday. I don't know, because it's going to depend on how he is, and we want to make sure that he's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and so another person says, I'm a self-diagnosed adult. From what I've heard, is this for parents only? And I want to say to you, absolutely not. That we love to hear from individuals who are on the autism spectrum, and we feature a lot of individuals on the show and give them a forum in which to tell their stories. Because as a parent, I'm more interested in that than anything else. Let's be honest, because that's the point of this process that I'm at. In the beginning, parents need a lot of support for how do they access treatments, how do they get the most out of them, how do they keep food on the table, how do they stay sane. And there's a large portion of that show where we try to disseminate that information in a way that is general enough so that almost anybody can start, but specific when people write in questions, right? But as you progress, as your child gets older, you need different things. And at a certain point, all you want to do are meet adults who are on the autism spectrum. And you want to know from them, what can I do now so that my child is happy and healthy and productive and still, likes me when this is all over? Those are the things that we don't like. Isn't that the most exciting thing for you? To meet adults now on the spectrum and go, I remember the day that I introduced you to somebody that you just were like,
I do too.
You got so excited because it was someone that I was working with and who was wonderful and articulate. And I said, honey, isn't that amazing? You just met this person that I've been telling you about. And he was like, what are you talking about? I thought I was going to get to meet him. I was like, no, you were just talking with him. And then you were like, that fabulous young man was on the spectrum as a child and struggled with the things that our son is struggling with. And
it was like a little trip to the possible future of our child. Yeah.
So I think the thing that's hard is that as parents, sometimes we are inappropriate with adults that are on the autism spectrum because we ask questions we wouldn't ask anybody else. It's an honest mistake that we make because we are asking you, is my child going to be okay? If they are like you, are you okay? Because I want to know that my child's going to be okay. Which means, and I hear this from my son now. He's like, he doesn't love being around autism parents because they'll say things to him like, do you have friends? And he's like, yeah, do you have friends? Of course I have friends. I'm a person, So I think that sometimes as parents, I know in the first few years when I was starting to just meet adults on the spectrum, I wanted to know everything, how are you doing that? And it's obnoxious. It's obnoxious.
Yeah.
But no, we try to have a pretty open forum here, and I invite people always to submit and say, what would you like to talk about on the show? And we put people who are adults on the spectrum and have younger people on the spectrum when it's appropriate. But there are a lot of privacy issues. So it isn't always appropriate. And there are a lot of people who don't choose to identify themselves as being on the spectrum for various and sundry reasons. I do not get to make that decision for them, nor do I have any right to have even the beginning of a judgment about that. People need to do what's right for them. But no, I come at things from a parent point of view, which is why I think you might get the perception that this is just for parents. The biggest part of our audience is parents, but it is not just for parents. Right. We say that it's for everybody. And the more people who are on the spectrum who participate, the more it is about that. So we're out of time. We have to go, but I want to thank you for filling in.
Thank you.
We are still holding out good hope and thoughts and prayers for Matt that he's okay, and we'll try to let you guys know more about that later, and we'll try to get him rescheduled as soon as he's well enough to do that. But thank you so much for being here with us today with my wonderful hubby, and we want to say to you bye-bye. Give your kiddos a hug from us,
Yes.
and one for you too, and bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.